Okay. Okay, so today I think we are looking at JavaScript, right? And JavaScript is just a programming language, like any other programming language that is used in building server-side and client-side applications. Originally, it used to be, it was said to be a toy language because it was mainly used for scripting within web browsers. But recently, it has been improved, and now it can be used for both server-side and client-side languages. So we'll be looking at how to integrate JavaScript into the portal we will be building for us to be able to have interactive application. Okay, so to start with, I think we have to create a file. So Eugene helped us create an HTML file, which we did a few days ago. So we'll want to create an HTML file again. So let's create an HTML file. So once we create HTML file, we just initialize it with the HTML component, which is the header, the body, and then the footer. So yeah. Now we learned also that to start JavaScript, we use some tags in writing our JavaScript, and the tag that we use is usually the script tag. So for us to initialize our JavaScript, we first need a script tag within our body. So with this script tag, we can now write JavaScript in here, in between this script tag. The first thing we'd like to look at is what we call commenting. And to comment helps us to add more description to our scripts, and it helps us in readability also for explanation sake. So let's say I wanted to write a function, right? So let's say the function should just alert one. But then maybe somebody might need to read my code. So I want to allow the person to understand what initiated me in writing that particular function. Then there's a need for me to use comments. So I do this, and then I say, so by reason of me doing this, we will have to, for us to be able to run this and for us to see the output, we'll have to open this index.html in our browser. Come back here. So we have an output over here which has alerted us with a number saying 1. Please, I hope you can see my web browser also.
Hello there. Please, can you increase your font a little bit? So
Okay.
it's much a little.
Yeah. Can you see my browser also?
No, we can only see your Sublime text.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, hello, Jed. You are muted.
Okay, so what I was saying initially was let's close this. Let's go back. What I was saying was once we write our script, the next thing that we have to do is for us to be able to run our HTML, for us to see the output within our web browser. So we come to where we have our file and then we double click it and it opens with the alerts that we gave. So this is how to write alerts in JavaScript. This is just one of the ways to do so. Okay. So we call this commenting. So you realize even though there was alerting script and alert one, the only thing that we were seeing on our page is the one. So with commenting also, whatever you comment isn't allowed to run within your web browser. So if you wrote a number of scripts and they were working, but as you guys went on with further development, some scripts needed to be scraped off. You can comment it out and then you run your page. And then what happens is that once the browser begins to read your scripts, it's going to jump the ones that have been commented. So it's not going to run them. Okay. The next thing we want to look at is what we call variables. So in JavaScript, when we talk about variables are, in a nutshell, they are like containers wherein we keep some data values. So to write variables, we initialize it generally with var, and then we bring the variable name, say let me say name. So I have a variable name, and then I'm saying it should be equal to Jed. Now I want to show this particular output within my interface like I did earlier on. So what I have to do is to use what we call JavaScript outputs. So we do documents dot write name. Come back to our browser and then we refresh the page and you can see Jed over here within my browser. So we have our variable name and then we have the value Jed within the name. And for you to write outputs into your HTML document, one of the ways you can do so is to use document.write. What this document means is what this document implies is just this HTML document. So what it's saying is that you should take this document and then you should write name. And then when the system goes to read what is within name, which is a variable, it sees Jed and then outputs Jed into our browser. Okay. Now there are three types of variables. We have the var, we have const, and then we have let. These are the three different ways of initializing your variables. So let's see var. And then let's. So we use whenever we use var, like we did earlier on, say the name. This var name is a global variable. When we say a global variable, we are saying that this variable can be used or called anywhere within our HTML document or within our JavaScript. whenever we use the const, and then we use maybe a variable, let's say car. Whenever we do something like that, and we want to use the const, then what we are saying is that const stands for constant. We are saying that we want to have a variable that is going to take only one value, and then that value should run true. So with these variables, right, we'll be able to change the value of this variable, which is the var, during during anytime we want to when writing our application. So with var they are mutable, with const they are not mutable. And another thing is we have what we call declaring a variable. So declaring a variable means you are doing something like this. So when I say var name, I've declared a variable. Now when they ask you to assign value to a variable, then we are saying you should do this. So the declaration of a variable can be var name, and then assign value to a variable can be what we have done over here. Var name is equal to z. So we have declaring of a variable. This equal to sign stand for an assignment, and then we have assigned a value to this variable name. We use the let whenever we are dealing with block scopes. When we talk about block scope, we are saying that we want to use the let for a particular usually within functions. Now the difference between the let and then the var and then the const is that the let works within block of codes, meaning that once you declare the let, also you are saying that you should let something be. So you are giving an identity to something. So you can't change the value you can't redeclare it you can't redeclare it again. So let's look at the errors that we can have. So let me add this. Okay. So what I'm trying to do now is to redeclare and assign all these variables again, adding different changing the values to see the possible outputs that we are going to get for them. Now there's nothing on this page because one possible thing is that we are having an error. So we learned about debugging. We inspect the page to see the possible error that we are having. We go to console to check that error. Now the error we have over here is saying that an identifier cane has already been declared. Now the cane is a constant, so we can't declare the cane again nor change the value because it has already been declared, and we say constant is used to keep a value to a variable throughout the lifespan of an application. So let's take cane out. Wait, this is okay. Sorry, let me do it this way rather. So the car has already been declared. Let's comment the car out then. You realize that the variable name should change. So now the next thing it's saying is that car has already been declared. Let's go back. I didn't save it. Okay. Still car. Okay. Oh, I commented cane rather. Sorry. So I commented out the car and then it has moved to cane because with a constant also you can't change it. Now all the values are coming and we don't have any issues with the var. So when the first var was jet, the second var was given coffee. You can see coffee over here, but you can see the Toyota and then the long still returning their initial values given them. So in a nutshell, these are mutable whenever we are using the var. Var is mutable. These ones not mutable. Cannot be redeclared. Let's try something over here. Now the cane has changed to short. The difference between, so what I'm saying over here is you realize with the car I'm saying it is not mutable, but with the cane I'm saying it cannot be redeclared. And I explained the declaration earlier on that we declare, we are saying we bring the keyword for declaring the variables and then we come with the variable name. So once you use let and then you bring a variable name, you can't redeclare a variable again, the same variable again using the let. But you can do so with the var at any time. All right. The next thing we would want to look at is what we call data types. Data types are just the different kinds of data that you would probably be working with within your JavaScript file. So we have data types like we have what we call the string. We have strings, we have floats, we have null data, we have undefined, we have objects, string, floats, null, undefined objects, we have boolean. Now, an example of the string data is what we have over here. So strings are just characters, and these characters are bounded by quotes. So let's say string data is equal to me. So come and see floats data is equal to now data should be equal to now. Okay, so we have the string data, float data, null data, we have undefined, we have objects, and then we have the bool data. So these are examples of the data types stated over here. I think there should be additional data types which maybe I might have probably forgotten, but these are just examples of the different data types that we have in JavaScript. So with the flow data deals with usually decimal data. So we have 1.0, 1.00, 0 point something. The null data is any data that counts with a null value, so empty values. The undefined is any data that has not been declared. So now I'm saying CAM. CAM hasn't been declared anywhere within our JavaScript file. So then the system will ask us, what does CAM mean? Because when we call name, we know what name is because we have assigned the value jet to name. So the system knows name should be equal to jet, and we'll give you an output jet. But CAM isn't defined. It is nothing. The system doesn't know it. An object data is a key value pair. Any data with a key value pair. So we have a key over here, and then we have the value. So when we call the objects data and we say, okay, objects data, it should give us the A. The value that is going to come out or pop out is the CC. Then the bool data deals with booleans, true or false data. Okay, so want to look at. I hope it's okay. The explanation is okay till now. And if you are writing, should I wait for a few seconds so you guys can write this out? Or can I move on? Or yes. Okay. All right. There's what we also call operators. Now, operators are usually arithmetic and comparison methods that we use in our normal day-to-day lives. So we are talking about plus, minus, multiplication. The multiplication sign in JavaScript is star. We have division. We'll have greater than, we'll have less than. We use this for comparison, saying it equates to. So these are some operators that you can use when you want to perform some manipulations in your data, maybe comparison or performing arithmetic methods. Let me comment this out, otherwise our script will not be able to run. Now let's look at what we can do with some of these data types, or how to the different ways of initializing some of these data types. So we would start with the let's start with the string data. So strings. The string can be initialized literally, and then it can be initialized by using the string objects. So we can do say first string. Let's output our results. Let's see. So I'm having an error over here. You see, it's saying the cam over here is not defined. So that's an undefined data we have over here. I have to comment it out. Let me comment this whole thing out. Whatever in time. I think this should be since S. Yes. Give me a second. So this type of over here allows us to see the type of data type that we are using currently. So let me comment this out. Our first data type here is a string. Let me comment this one also out. We have our string, which is the first string, which is the literal way of declaring strings. And then we have the object way, using the string object. It's given as an object over here. Using the string objects. Okay. Now there are some manipulations that you can do with strings. There are some methods which we call usually string methods, and this helps you to do further manipulations over your strings. So let's say I have this code and then I want to change this code to capitalize this code, but I want to do it programmatically. Then what I have to do is say capitalize. Okay, sorry, I'm using Python. I think it should be to uppercase. So to uppercase gives you an uppercase of whatever string that you might have. If you want to maybe join two strings, you can say first string, then you can use concat. So you can say cool. So we have cool bar. So we use the concat to join this first string, which is the cool, and then the bar. So there are a number of methods that you can use. Some of those methods, let me just write it out, then you can check them out. You can use index of. Since strings comes, every string is some way somehow an array. So you can find the index of each of the characters within the string using the index of. So you call first string. You can do something like first string dot index of. Then you can put C. So it is going to give you the index, which is the position of the value C. So we have index of. Okay, let's just output it and see. So the index of the value C is 0. So we'll come to indexing. Indexing is just a way of finding out the positions that a particular value occupies within an array. But later on we'll look into that. So some of the things that you can look into is index of. Now JavaScript also uses camel case syntax, so you realize that it starts with a small letter and then the next follows with a capital letter. So you have index of, we have trim. Trim allows you to, it's much more, the name implies its meaning. If you have some values and then you want to take, maybe I have cool, and then there are spaces around the cool, and I want to trim it to make the spaces disappear, I can use trim, and then I put an empty space, an empty string within the parentheses. It's going to trim, and it's going to trim my value for me. we have replace. The replace is used to replace a value. So maybe you have a value, maybe cool bar. Now you want to change it to maybe a cool dress. What you can use the replace and then tell it to go and look for bar and then replace bar to the dress. So we have to lower case also. Yeah, and then the concat. So these are some methods that more than not you'll be using a lot based on what you might be doing with JavaScript. So that's a little about the strings. The next thing we want to look at is, let's talk about arrays. Yes, so that brings me to it. Another data type is an array. So anytime we have something like 1, 2, 3, 4, this is an array. Because it's a collection of things within a container. We have an array over there, so let's look at arrays. Okay, I think this is okay for now. So let me just go through everything once again to make sure we are all on the same track. Then we'll look at the rest later on. Then, so we spoke about variables, and then we said variables are just empty containers that we use to hold a value. So what happens is that if we were running our system without variables, most of our results that we would be computing is going to be within our system, but we will not be able to locate the results to see it with our eyes. Or maybe we want the results back to use it for further analysis. We will not be able to get them because we wouldn't know where they are within the system. So when we initialize a variable, what happens is that the system creates a place for this, a place, and then that place is designated with a variable name. So whenever we want our value, it goes and then gets that variable and then gives us our value back. So that's with the variable, and we are saying the variable, a variable is in 3 folds. A variable is in 3 folds, and these different folds are the var, the const, and then the let. What the var does is that the var allows you to create variables, and these variables are mutable. They can be changed along the way if you want to change the values that are within your variable. So whenever you are using variables, then you should know that it inputs some kind of side effects within your script also. So they are mutable, and you can redeclare and reassign them. When you are using the const is constant, meaning that once you redeclare and add a value, you can't redeclare nor change the value of that particular variable. When we use the let works with blocks of code functions. So whenever you declare that one also, you can't redeclare the variable with the same variable again with a let, but you can change the value of that variable declared with a let. To write an output, we use the document.write to write an output into our JavaScript file. Now there is also what we call the console.log. The console.log allows us to write outputs into our console for verification purposes. So you can say console.log. Okay. Or you come to console we come to info. So you come to the console, and then you come to info, and then you can see your value over here. So this is another way of also outputting JavaScript values. So we have console document.write, and then we did the first one, which was the alert. And the alert also allows you to output JavaScript values. And then we came down to data types, and we said the data types, we have strings, we have floats, we have null values, we have arrays, undefined values, objects, and then booleans. And then we gave examples of these different types of data. The next thing we looked at was the operators. We said with the operators, we have the plus, the minus, the multiplication sign, the division sign, greater than, less than. There are other operators over there. These are just a few to allow us understand what they really are. And then we came down to the data type strings, and then we looked at some of the methods which we can implement on the data type string. And some of these methods we looked at was concat, index of, and then I think concat, and then the index of, and then two uppercase. And we said the concat is to allow you usually it is to allow you merge values together. The index of is to find the position of a particular character within a string. To lowercase allows you to convert a value to lowercase, replace whenever you want to. You have a string and then you want to replace some characters within the string, or you have a line of string or a sentence and want to replace words within the sentences. You can use the replace and then to find, and then you find a particular word or character and then you replace it. The trim is to allow you to trim your string. So if you have characters or empty spaces that you don't want within your string, also use the trim, and then you take those characters or empty spaces out. So I think that's it. I think I'll open the floor for questions, then we continue later on. So if there are any questions, you can bring it on board. We'll continue next week with from the arrays.
Thank you very much, Judge. Colleagues, the floor is open. If you have any question, kindly put it on the platform. Then Judge will take the questions one after the other.
Yeah, so the console.log is one of the ways of outputting your JavaScript values. So you want to have an output the same way we were doing the document.write. The console.log allows us to see the values that we are dealing with within our JavaScript file. So once you use the console.log, it creates it writes our outputs in here. So you come to console, you come to the info, and then you can see the value. So this value long is the value for the variable king, and you can see the long over here. So that's what the console.log is for. So it depends on, so let's say you are working with maybe you are fetching value from an API, and then the API, you are consuming that API. What you do is there are times that you don't know how the API is structured. So once you do console.log, it allows you to see the values within your console.log. So you better know how your API has been structured for you to know how to manipulate them and use them within your JavaScript or within your HTML documents. So that's when you'd want to use the console.log. Sure, you're welcome.
Is there any other question?
I think someone is typing.
Okay.
Okay, so I said the objects are, when we talk about objects, we are talking about a key and then a value. The key, in a, to say it's not it, but to help you understand what the key is, the key can be like the way we have a variable over here and then we have the value. You can say this variable is a key and then this is the value. The same, so that's the same thing. We have a key, we have a value. So objects are just key value pairs. So objects always come in twos. They are key and then their value, and then they come in pairs. So to have an object in JavaScript, it is being initialized with the curly bracket, and then you have to have a value and then the key. So what happens is that whenever you call the key, the value pops up. That's the object. I hope
Yeah, it is clear. But I was just wondering now how you can actually like call it like let's say if you want to also use this document write, for instance.
okay,
Call it
let's see.
the A.
So that's something. So you see the A, the value, when I call the A, I have the CC over here. So you call the objects. After calling the objects, you want to see a value, but because they come in key and then values, you always call the key against the objects. So we have objects and then we have the key. So it's going to get us the value.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure, you're welcome. So like I'm saying, you would prefer the var when you know that the values that you are dealing with might change. So let's say you've declared var, say var, let's see, let's use the same, let's say teacher name. Teacher name is equal to, let me use my own name. Teacher name is equal to Jade. Then, and then somewhere along the way, this teacher name changes. So I'm the teacher now, but at a point in time, my name changes. And we are saying that this is happening probably in real time, right? You can't you can't change the value for Jade in here. So what will help you change is this var. This var is mutable. So if my name should change, then this var should be equal to this var, the teacher name, should be equal to the current name. Current name. But if you are confident, you are sure that the data isn't going to change or your values are going to be the same throughout the lifespan of your application, you use a const. You use the let also. The let helps you to avoid issues with. So the reason why the var isn't being used more often is because of the what I'm talking about. We call these side effects, and these side effects are what this is the case where you have jet and then jet changes to current time, and sometimes you might not know what's brought about that change. So if the value is changing that way, it causes a little bit of issues. and it allows people to be able to also change the data. So much more like so for security purposes also we will say you shouldn't use the var more often, but yes, it has its place of use also. So you use the so based on what you want to do, you use the var, the cons, or the let. Any other questions?
Okay, yeah, Jed. Since there are no questions, we can bring today's session to an end and continue on Monday, God willing. Yeah.
Okay.
So please, yeah. Um, so colleagues, please kindly try as much as possible to complete the survey form for us to review it during the weekend so that we can take some decisions before we start the following weeks. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening and afternoon. Bye bye.
Bye.